Good afternoon, Major Tripathi. Am I audible to you?
Yes, sir. You are audible, sir. Of course, sir. Yes.
आप सभी को नमस्कार। मेरी आवाज सुनाई दे रही है क्या?
Yes, sir. You are audible, sir. Absolutely
हाँ,
audible.
सॉरी, मैं अभी तैयार हो पाया हूँ। अगर इसके पहले कोई बात हुई है तो आई हैव नॉट बीन एबल टू हियर।
No, sir.
So
it's
now you
totally
can
okay.
start, please.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Pacific School of Law welcomes the guest speaker and the participants to this National 1 Week online FDP program on emerging trends in legal education. The guest speaker today is former Major Saras Tripathi, sir. He comes from Indian Army and he will be talking on the topic, the Constitution and the military laws today, defense strategies laws, a new aspect in legal education. Now it's the brief introduction of the guest speaker. Major Saras Tripathi sir is someone who needs no introduction. He has approximately 30 years of professional experience. He served in Indian Army for 8 years, commissioned as an officer with the last rank as Major. Manager Media and Public Relations to the Government of India, Human Resource Manager at Central PSU, Manager of Security and Vigilance, Airport Manager of Landslide Management at Indira Gandhi International Airport, New Delhi. He last served as a Commandant of Raksa Academy of GMR Group, a certified center of excellence. Later, he dedicated himself to freelance writing and researching on the issues of national importance. He also trained people to achieve their cherished goals. We welcome you, sir, to this event. And with the permission of the director, sir, I offer this to you. Now, over to you, sir.
थैंक यू वेरी मच। आप लोगों का बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। सभी को मेरा नमस्कार और thank you very much for the kind introduction. I think I'll be taking this lecture not purely in English, because Hindi is our official and mother tongue also. Most of us speak Hindi. So in between, I'll be speaking in Hindi. Is it okay, or
Yes, sir,
we
of
should
course.
go only for
Yes, sir.
English?
Whatever it is.
Okay, fine. Thank you. So firstly, I thank all the faculties and the researchers for calling me and giving me this opportunity to address you. I'm of the firm belief that none of you are less qualified or less knowledgeable than me. But yes, maybe on this specific subject, I may be having a little of edge. So I don't claim any scholarly qualities or more knowledge than you. Whatever I know, I'll certainly be speaking, and please consider it as an interactive session. Once I have spoken, you are at liberty to ask questions, because questions are one thing that actually bring out the tricky points, the important aspects. So please reserve your questions when I'm speaking. Probably it may not be proper to ask question because the thought process may break. So it will be right if you note down your questions, and at the end of the session, you would like to ask the questions. So now I'm starting my lecture. Uh, in fact, I most of the time I prepare PPT, and my method of presentation is PPT only. Here, because of some confusion, I did not go for PPT. Last moment, I realized I should have gone. Nevertheless, it will be no less interesting. So I will start, because most of in our country, the knowledge, or rather information about armed forces is very, very limited. I have found very educated people do not understand the difference between a Havaldar and a Havaldar and a Subedar, or a Subedar major and between a major, between a major and a major general, between a lieutenant and a lieutenant colonel. So there is a lot of misinformation, misunderstanding. So first I'll clarify certain things which are very important. So let us start from the Armed Forces of India, and slowly we will move to almost every aspect. I'll try to cover because basically the lecture is about the constitution and the law. That is the topic which I have been told. So I'll be dealing with the constitution, constitutional provisions relating to armed forces, and what are the important laws relating to the armed forces or the military. But that will be in the later part. First, let us introduce ourselves. What are the armed forces? So armed forces means in Hindi we call it Shasastra Bal. Are together, there are two words which generally define armed forces and defense forces. There are certain terminologies which you must understand. Most of the people do not understand the difference. So armed forces means जिसको हम हिंदी में कहते हैं सशस्त्र सेनाएं, भारतीय सशस्त्र सेनाएं, अंग्रेजी में कहते हैं इंडियन आर्म्ड फोर्सेस, वो भारत सरकार के तीन विंग हैं. That is three arms of the government of India. That is army, that otherwise you can call it land forces, the air forces, and the water forces, that is navy. So army, navy, and air force, these three comprise of armed forces of India, and nothing else. Please note this. Armed forces means only army, navy, and air force. And other terminology for these three wings in one word is defense forces. Now comes third terminology, security forces. Security forces means any force that provides a security. This includes armed forces, that is army, navy, and air force. This includes all the so-called paramilitary forces. Nowadays they are called central armed forces, central armed police forces, CAPF. And rather, security forces will include the state police, even the security agencies also. So security forces is a very broad terminology, whereas armed forces or defense forces have very limited meaning. That is the three wings of the government of India, or rather state of India, that their basic task is to defend the borders. That is to defend, it is very clearly defined that there will be armed forces of Union of India, and their task will be to defend the nation from external aggression. So the basic task of armed forces of India is to protect the nation from external aggression, not from internal disturbances. For internal security duties, there are state forces. That is, every state has its police, and as it is, law and order is the state subject. As you know, as you know, in the constitution, there are three lists. One is the central list, union list, other is the state list, and third is the concurrent list. So in the state central list, there are 99/100 subjects. I'm absolutely not sure. To my knowledge, it is 99. And approximately 49, close to 49 are in a state subject, and accordingly in the concurrent subject. But that is not the topic, so I'll not insist. Only thing I want to tell you here, that is the armed forces are the subject of the Union of India. So for internal security duties, there are state forces, that is police force. So I'm very sure we are very clear what are the armed forces, what are defense forces, and what are security forces. Now coming to the armed forces. Indian armed forces are the second biggest standing armed forces in the world, only after China. China has 22 lakh, rather what you call 2.2 million standing armed forces. India has approximately 14 lakh 50,000. Let us consider broadly 15 lakhs. So this is the uh, biggest organization in the country. Probably railways are the only other organization or governmental organization which can match the strength of the armed forces. So the Indian Army is the second biggest army in the world, and it is the biggest army, the biggest volunteer army in the world. Now the difference is Indian Army is a volunteers army. Like Chinese army is not a volunteers army. In China, in US, everybody has to render compulsory military service. So whether you want or you don't want, you have to serve in the armed forces. But India has decided to keep its armed forces volunteer. Nobody is forced to join the armed forces. Rather, anybody who wants to join, he is welcome if he meets all the criteria that is set by. Somebody said something?
No, sir, it was interruption.
Okay, it
Yeah,
was
sorry for the interruption.
unwanted interruption. Doesn't matter. I request that if you need not to speak, please keep your speaker on mute. So that will filter out any unwanted sound coming from the background. Okay, so armed forces, this is the biggest voluntary armed forces in the world. Now coming to the important point, constitutional provisions. The constitution, as I have told you earlier, that the defense forces are the subject of Union of India. It is part of the Union list. Whereas certain provisions have been very clearly mentioned about the armed forces in the constitution, like Article 34, 33, 34, 35 have some connection with the armed forces. Whereas in Article 33, the Article 33 says that Parliament, I'll read out from the from the text itself. The Parliament has the powers. The Parliament has the powers to restrict fundamental rights of the people who join the armed forces of India. So this is a very important provision. Only Parliament of India has right to amend or reduce the fundamental rights or rights given to the members of the armed forces of India because of very character of their duties. The people in the armed forces cannot claim the same right as an ordinary citizen of India. Certain rights are not available to them, and certain privileges are also available to them, which is not available to the citizen of India. So these rights and responsibilities as go together. So Parliament has the power to restrict the certain rights of the people of the armed forces of India. Now coming to the Article 34. Article 34 says that it deals about the martial law. It not very clearly defines because there's a lot of discussion during the framing of the constitution, whether there should be clear provisions about the martial law or not. Certain people were of the opinion that in the country there may be a situation when military has to take over unprecedented situations, unforeseen situations, so that the country does not go into chaos. So these powers should be given. There should be a provision about the martial law, but the framers of the constitutions finally decided it is not required, and we should not give any legal. Just hold on, please. We should not make any legal provision for the martial law. So there is no legal provision for the martial law, but the space has been left in case of extreme emergency or complete breakdown of law and order or chaos or disturbances. The army can take over and it will be defined as martial law. In American Constitution, as you might be knowing as a student of law, it's very clearly defined, and 9 times the martial law has been invoked also, not in the entire country, but in certain states, because they have dual citizenship and the president and the governors have the rights. So, but in India, the martial law has never been imposed, but military has been used at different occasions that we'll be covering later. Now coming to the rules and regulations of the about the armed forces. So Article 34 mentions about the martial law, where in case of extreme emergency or extreme disturbances or country going into chaos, the martial law can be imposed by the order of the president or by the military ruler himself, like the chief of the army staff, or in present case the chief of the defense staff. In case there is such emergency, these provisions have been left very unclear, so that legality is not given to the military ruler. Depending on the situation in the country, they can take over to save the country from the chaos. And these provisions have been misused all over the world, including our neighbors. As you know, Pakistan, Bangladesh have gone through martial law so many times. In fact, these two countries have been ruled more. Rather, Pakistan has been ruled more by military rulers than the democratically elected civilian government. So this provision has been left here. Now, rules relating to the armed forces are their separate rules. There is one Army Act, there is Navy Act, and there is Air Force Act. So all the terms, conditions, duties, their punishment, their reward, everything is dealt under the respective acts. Army deals its subjects under the Army Act, Air Force under the Air Force Act, and Navy under Navy Act. Questions are continuously being raised about the provisions in the Army Act, Air Force Act, Navy Act, because these acts were originally legislated by the British government, and the aim was to give military a lot of powers, so that the occupation of India can be continued. So army officers were given a lot of powers, but that has been limited under the present dispensation only within their organization. Now, armed forces are the only organization where the officers have full judicial powers also. I'm sure you must be knowing the military commanders have the powers at different various levels in specific circumstances to even give death penalty. But that needs to be confirmed by the High Court and the Supreme Court of India. But they do have power. In my knowledge, no other organization has full judicial powers as the armed forces have. From giving the from suspension to downgradation to termination, or to giving corporal punishment, giving the rigorous imprisonment, life imprisonment, and even the death penalty. These powers have been conferred to the officers of the armed forces primarily so that the discipline and morale and character of the armed forces are not affected. In case somebody acts in the contravention of the national interest or the interest of the organization, these powers can be invoked and the person can be disciplined or thrown out or punished. So these three rules, three acts deal the three wings of the armed forces separately. Almost they are the same. There are provisions of summary court martial, general court martial, general summary general court martials, and all those things are there. And that is probably not the subject of any person who is not part of the armed forces of India, because they hardly will be needing to deal with them. Now, coming down to next, most important, which relates to the civilian-military relationship, is the Armed Forces Special Power Act. The Armed Forces Special Power Act, I'll just tell the background. This is a very, very important law, and to some extent controversial also. The Armed Forces Special Power Act was passed by Parliament of India for the first time in 1958. And the background was there was armed insurgency in the northeastern region of India. That is what nowadays we call Seven Sisters. That is in Mizoram, Nagaland. These states came into being later on, but this area was very disturbed and there was armed insurgency. Land order of civilian government had completely broken, and Indian state has no control over these areas. It was almost liberated zone by the Nagas, the Kukis, and all those people, the tribals of Northeast, primarily Nagas in Manipur and Nagaland, what we call Manipur, Nagaland. That time they used to be part of Assam state. All the states in Northeast have in stages been taken out and given a statehood from the state of Assam. So in 1958, when situation went out of hand, then the Union government decided to use army to keep the territorial integrity of India. So Parliament of India passed an act that is known as Armed Forces Special Power Act 1958. Later on, this act was passed for other states also. I'll be talking a little about the other states also, but primarily since the rule, this act was passed by the Parliament in 1958, keeping in mind insurgency in Northeast. So I'll be deliberating on this act here itself, because the provisions hardly have changed irrespective of where it has been used. In 1991, if I remember the exact date, it was 7th January 1999. 7th January 1999, when this act was again passed by the Parliament of India in respect of Jammu and Kashmir state. And that is the time when army was deployed to carry out counter-insurgency operation in Jammu and Kashmir when situation went out of hand. So let us understand what are the provisions of the Armed Forces Armed Forces Special Power Act. The Armed Forces Special Power Act has certain provisions that gives tremendous power and enabling environment to the Armed Forces of India to operate in extraordinary circumstances. As you know, the military does not have any relation, or rather the government of India does not have powers. Even the government of India does not have powers to employ armed forces of India for civilian use, law and order duties. That is why there was need for this act. This act has four very important provisions. First and foremost provision is, I'll read out from the text so that there is no confusion. But before that, yes, where it can be imposed, Armed Forces Special Power Act can be imposed in a disturbed area. So it's very important that before Armed Forces Special Power Act is operationalized, the state government or the central government has to declare a specific area, entire state or a defined area of the state, very clearly defined area of the state as disturbed area. Until a place or until a geographical area is declared as a disturbed area, the Armed Forces Special Power Act cannot be operationalized. So there is a precondition before Armed Forces Special Power Act is operationalized in that area, that the governor of the state or the president of India has to declare a well-defined area as disturbed area. In disturbed area, the Armed Forces Special Power Act is applied and the military armed forces of India get special powers to operate. Now, what are these special powers? They are categorized in four categories. I'll read out from the text. That is, the first, I'll read out from the act itself because I cannot remember, so I'm reading it from the text. That is, special powers of the armed forces. What are the special powers? Special powers are any commissioned officer, warrant officer, or non-commissioned officer, or any other person of equivalent rank in the armed forces may, in a disturbed area, क्या कर सकता है? If he is of the opinion that it is necessary so to do for the maintenance of public order, after giving such due warning as he may consider necessary, fire upon, otherwise use force, even to the even to the cause of death against any person who is acting in contravention of any law or order for the time being in force in the disturbed area, prohibiting the assembly of 5 or more persons, or the carrying of weapons, or of things capable of being used weapons, or of firearms, ammunition, or explosive substances. So there are two things that needs to be elaborated here. Firstly, who can use this power? So the act is very clear that any commissioned officer, any warrant officer, or any non-commissioned officer. These are three terminologies or their equivalent. So let me clarify what this means. Army has three layers of hierarchy. One is the lowest level is Sipai, and then is Lance Nayak, then Nayak, and then Havaldar. These four categories are called non-commissioned officer: Sipai, Lance Nayak, Nayak, and Havaldar. Non-commissioned officer, they are, in short, they are called NCO. The second category above this is JCOs, junior commissioned officers. That is Naib Subedar, Subedar, and Subedar Major. They are junior commissioned officer. And third category is of commissioned officers. This starts from a lieutenant in army to the chief of defense staff. So this group is called commissioned officers. And I'll just read out for your knowledge and information the categories. From down to up, it is like this: Sipai, Lance Nayak, Nayak, Havaldar, non-commissioned. Then it starts junior commissioned officer, that is Naib Subedar, Subedar, and Subedar Major. Then it starts commissioned officer. Commissioned officers are directly appointed through Union Public Service Commission. They have to go through the competitive examination of National Defense Academy, NDA/CDS, Combined Defense Services. This examination is conducted by UPSC, and they are appointed directly by the President of India. So they are class 1 gazetted officers, but in army they are called commissioned officers. That their rank starts like from below to down to up. It is lieutenant, captain, major, lieutenant colonel, colonel, brigadier, major general, lieutenant general, chief of the army staff, and chief of the defense staff. Now, otherwise, chief of the army staff used to be the highest ranking 4-star general. Similarly, in Air Force, it is the airman, leading aircraftman, and then is corporal, then is sergeant, then is junior warrant officer, master warrant officer, then pilot officer, flying officer, pilot officer, flying officer, and flight lieutenant, squadron leader, wing commander, group captain, air commodore, air vice marshal, air chief marshal. So these are the ranks, equivalent ranks. So now you have to understand who is non-commissioned officer, who is junior commissioned officer, who is commissioned officer. As per this definition, anybody who is a commissioned officer or a warrant officer means all the JCOs and NCOs. So other than Sipai is not part of NCO. So other than Sipai, everybody has this right, whatever has been conferred in the Armed Forces Special Power Act. So except a Sipai, starting from Lance Nayak and upwards, any person is defined as officer here. For this act, any person is defined as officer, and even a Lance Nayak has power to exercise whatever is given in the Armed Forces Special Power Act. So what are the powers? Broadly, these are 4 powers. First power is to fire upon. How it happens? Like what happens? Suppose in disturbed area, any person who is given the special powers, like I have told, except Sipai, everybody has that power. But by order of because Sipai will not act on his, so practically assume that every military person has this power. The first power is, in case during the discharge of duty, a military personnel fires on the crowd or on the crowd that is creating disturbances, and in the course of performance of duty, somebody dies. Later on, it is proved that he was actually innocent. But still, the person who has fired and killed cannot be prosecuted in any court of law until a sanction is given by the President of India. That is the central government in practical senses. Why this power has been given? This power has been given so that there is enabling environment, because you have to keep in mind that the army has been deployed under Armed Forces Special Power Act only when the civil administration has completely collapsed. So these are very difficult circumstances. Mostly it is in the insurgency area. When there is armed insurgency, there are terrorists who has weapons, like in Kashmir you are saying. So these powers have been given. There is a caveat given by the Supreme Court that the intent of the person is very important while this kind of killing takes place. If it is proved that the person has intentionally killed an innocent person, then he can be charged in the court of law. Whereas if he has not intended to kill, but in the crossfire somebody gets killed while he is firing on the militant or a terrorist or trying to discharge his lawful duty, and somebody unintentionally gets killed because of any reason, then he cannot be prosecuted. Second power is power of search. The person who has been given these powers, I mean the Armed Forces of India, they can search premises of any person without any judicial warrant or without any pre-warning or without giving any reason. So wherever this act is applicable, suppose in Kashmir, like I have worked in Kashmir from 92 to 95 and 97 to 99 under Armed Forces Special Power Act. So we choose our own time of searching anybody's house or entire village. We place the cordon, we go there. After cordoning, we announce through the public address system that all males above 18 years and female and below 70 years have to come out at a specific area. And the entire house, their entire village house will be searched by the army to find out whether some militant is hiding or there is any explosive or any armed and ammunition that can be used against the state of India. So this kind of search is carried out regularly, but there is no judicial warrant needed for this kind of search. Whereas, you know, if police has to search your house, they need a judicial warrant from the court. But under the Armed Forces Special Power Act, this power is given to the army officers. I mean, officer means everybody, NCO, JCO, and commissioned officers, to carry out search without seeking anybody's permission. Third power is to seize. In case they feel that some property has been acquired wrongfully with the intention to carry out destruction or against the national interest, that property can be destroyed or seized. And the fourth power is arrest. The armed forces, under the Armed Forces Special Power Act, have the power to arrest any person whom they suspect is has harmed the nation or national interest or is likely to be. The point is, when he has not done anything, but you suspect that this person may be of dubious character, or he is likely to be a militant or a terrorist, or he is planning to carry out some terrorist attack or anything want to do against the nation, on suspicion only the armed forces members can arrest such person. And they need not to give any reason or explanation. Their own wisdom is the final decision. That is why, like wherever Armed Forces Special Power Act is applicable, the members of the Armed Forces of India can arrest any person and detain him till the time they deem it fit. However, they are supposed to inform the local police and the village head that such and such person has been arrested by us, so that people are aware that he is in the custody of the army. Now, these four powers have been given to the Armed Forces of India. Here a question will come, what about the fundamental right? So the answer is very simple. Under the martial law also and under Armed Forces Special Power Act, all fundamental rights are suspended or curtailed. So nobody can go for habeas corpus. Like there are petitions, you know, that somebody in normal circumstances, a person can go that so and so person is missing, and it is in the it is understood it is the custody of the army, so he has to be produced in the court. So habeas corpus is not applicable here because fundamental rights are suspended, are rather curtailed, are not applicable. So wherever the Armed Forces Special Power Act is applicable, almost all fundamental rights are reduced or completely curtailed, depending on the situation. So army has the right to keep a person till the time it deems necessary to keep him. Generally, the guideline is within the organization, then 1 week we can keep the person in our custody after arrest and informing to the police that we have arrested so and so person, so that the police and the people are aware that he has been taken by the army. After 1 week, if we want to keep the person for further interrogation, we need seek permission from our higher headquarters, that is from at the level of a major general, that is divisional commander. Here also there is no need to go to any other authority, that is within the military hierarchy only. So these are the powers that are given to the armed forces under Armed Forces Special Power Act. Okay. So now here, I think I have covered all important aspects. I would like to, before proceeding further, I would like to ask if there is any question.
Whoever is having any query, any question, they may write their queries, their questions in the chat box so that you may get the answer. जिस किसी का भी कोई प्रश्न हो वो कर सकता है चैट बॉक्स में यूज कर सकता है.
Sir, I would like to highlight, sir, I would like to request, sir, to highlight on the judgment delivered by the Supreme Court in respect of the killing by the armed forces in Italy. 2 years back, the judgment has come. I am forgetting the title of the judgment.
Sir, please.
So many people are talking in the background, I could not hear.
Yeah, the question was not audible, no?
No,
हम
question
सुन नहीं
was
पाए
not
उन्होंने.
audible because there was a lot of disturbing background. So please repeat your question.
If you are hearing my voice, Amrit Sudan Chakravarti, sir, please repeat your question.
Okay, my question is that 3 years back, the Supreme Court
No,
has
I'm sorry. No, your voice
passed
is not
a
audible.
landmark
Please
judgment.
type in the chat box, sir. Amrit Sudan Chakravarti, sir,
Okay,
please
all
type
right,
it in the
all
chat
right.
box.
Okay, okay. Any other question till the time Dr. Chakrabarti is writing? I would prefer that you ask straight away questions so that I reply. But unfortunately, there is when the speaker is on, there's a lot of background disturbance. No, it looks there is no question. Okay, fine. So now I'll come to the second part of it. Dr. Chakrabarti is, I think, writing his question. Where is it? Let me find out where it can be.
Yes, sir, he is writing the question. So if the question comes, we will continue with that.
Okay, doesn't matter. I'm looking for it. Where is it? Chat? Huh? I think it will be in chat. I couldn't see any. There is a previous day link active. There is nothing in the chat. Let it come. Okay, fine. So now originally there was another question which I got amended because there was something strategic laws and all. So I'll try to explain what the word strategy means and whether it has any legal relation or it does not have, that you all have to decide. How the Armed Forces Act or any big organization acts and what is the strategy, I would like to define it by a PPT, because I have been giving presentation on this. I'll try whether if host can enable me to share the screen, I would like to share a PPT. Abhi it is showing that
Yes,
the
sir.
sharing
I'm asking.
option has been disabled.
I'm asking, sir. Please wait.
Sharing option is disabled.
Now it is on, sir. You may share.
Now it is working, sir. Please check.
Like, but the question has come. Let me see what the question is, then I'll proceed. Okay. Don't think Armed Forces Special Power Act is giving the free hand army to kill anyone, including those challenging the illegal act of the army, man, and something is missing. Doesn't matter. I think this is Dr. Amrita Amitra. Acha, Amitra Sudan Chakraborty. Okay, fine.
Yes, sir.
Okay. The question is, don't think Armed Forces Special Power is giving the free hand army to kill anyone, including those challenging the illegal act of the the question is very unclear. However, I understand the spirit of the question, so I will surely tell on this. Firstly, he is asking, don't think Armed Forces Special Power Act is giving the free hand army to kill anyone, including those challenging the illegal act. He is saying those who challenging illegal act. So what is illegal act? When the power in the Armed Forces Special Power Act is already given, so I don't think what is illegal. Who will decide what is legal and what is illegal? Illegal act of the army. Any illegal act of the army, to my understanding, is challengeable in the court of law. Now, I do not know if he could have given any example, the things would have been clear. Further, he writes, do you don't think it is an abuse of law making power to suspend the fundamental right completely? Okay, fine. Do you think it is an abuse of law to make the power to suspend fundamental right? It may be an abuse. My answer is very simple. It may be an abuse to suspend the fundamental rights, but it has not been suspended by the army. The problem comes, people blame the army without understanding that army has not gone there on its sweet will. Neither it has power, nor it has desire, nor it has wish to go and do the duty of a policeman. When army is operating in Nagaland or in Kashmir, it is doing the duty of police because your police has failed. When they are doing the duty of a policeman, which is not their duty, it is not on their wish. It is the government who has sent. And government is, who is government? The government is one that you have elected. So if government has given this power, so making part of the government has given, army has not suspended the fundamental rights. The fundamental rights had been suspended by the Act of Parliament. This is the important point that you have to understand. Army does not have power to reduce your fundamental right. The Act has been passed by the Parliament of India, and Parliament of India has suspended your fundamental right, not the army. And they have said they don't have fundamental right. Now you operate, and this is the way of operation. This is your protection. So they are operating. Second thing is very important. When everything has failed, only then army has gone there. One very important thing one has to understand, that the armed forces are the last arm of the government to keep the national and territorial integrity intact. If armed forces fail, there is no other tool in the hands of the government to use. So you have to decide whether the national integrity is important or fundamental rights of the citizens are important. If you feel fundamental right of the citizens are more important, then you should be ready for secession and separation and creation of new states. That is what has been happening in Bosnia, Herzegovina and all those places. So the point is, what you want, you have to decide. As far as armed forces are concerned, 2-3 points are very clear. They have not gone on their sweet will. They do not have powers to go and keep on operating. They are not encroaching any law. They are not doing anything illegal. They have been empowered by the Parliament of India by due act that, and they are operating there. Yes. Now comes whether there are violations of violations of the powers that, rather misuse of power that has been given to them. I will say yes. This is the question probably should have been asked, whether there are violations of the powers given to, rather whether there are misuse of power given to the armed forces. Yes, at times it is misused, and the reasons for misuse are many. At times it is of error of judgment. It is not intentional. At times it is over enthusiasm for your nation. Like I tell you an example. There was a hardcore militant, and he had carried out a lot of damage. So finally we could catch him in 1992. So he was being interrogated. He was parked and militant, fundamentalist to the core, and he was not breaking. So the degree of, uh, I mean, extracting information from him was being increased. Finally, what happened? He had some ailment also, and he died. He died in custody. So the point is, of course, there was a misuse of power. Misuse of power in the sense because army does not have power to kill in custody. But it was not intentional killing. It was interrogation going on. During interrogation, it was error of judgment. How much to ask him, how much treatment he was to be given, and so he died. So these are the points. At times, misuse of, you can call it misuse of power, error of judgment. That does happen, and it happens everywhere. It happens with the police. It happens with the judiciary. It happens with the government. It happens with any army in the world. Judicially, if you think that judiciary does not make error of judgment, then why the orders given by the High Court are superseded or rather overturned by the Supreme Court? After all, maybe even Supreme Court orders are not right, but since it is the highest court, you have to accept it. You see, whatever order has been given by the lower court, at times it gets overturned by the higher court, High Court. And whatever order has been given by High Court, that is overturned by Supreme Court. So naturally, there is error of judgment among the judges also. So how do you expect a soldier not to make error of judgment? So these things do happen. So my answer is yes. If your question is that illegal, it is not illegal. They have gone there with the authority of law under the Act of Parliament. And if your question is whether they misuse their power or not, they misuse or they don't misuse, but at times it looks misused, and at times they do misuse. So this is a fact. What is that? Let me see.
Sir, sorry for the disturbance. We have one more question from Dr. Rahul Sharma. What is, like he mentioned here, the question? Armed forces. What is AFT?
I think AFT I have not gone through yet. Okay, fine. AFT is Armed Forces Tribunal. I don't know whether I have, I think I have not explained. Yeah. Armed Forces Tribunal is a judicial body under the Act of Parliament, and it is a tribunal. The spirit behind creating a tribunal, any tribunal, is, as you know, to reduce the burden on the judiciary. Every case cannot be taken to High Court and Supreme Court because their main task is to interpret the law, interpretation of the Constitution. So where constitutional interpretation is involved, only those cases should go to the Supreme Court. But most of the cases in the armed forces are not involving the interpretation of the Constitution or the very difficult laws. Mostly they are administrative. So government has created Armed Forces Tribunal. Armed Forces Tribunal are the judicial bodies that dispense with the service cases. Their constitution is that there is a High Court, Supreme Court retired judge who presides over the court, and there are minimum 2 members who are from the Armed Forces of India. generally of the rank of, not below the rank of a major general, or at times they are lieutenant generals also. And so under the chairmanship of a retired judge, they look into the cases, grievances of the serving personnel and dispense the justice. Almost the data says 80 to 90% cases which otherwise would have gone to the court are solved by the tribunals, and they are accepted by both the parties. So the tribunals are doing a very good job. Armed forces tribunals are doing a good job. And there are several benches of these tribunals in almost all big cities, particularly where there is a command, like Northern Command, Central Command, Southern Command, where a Lieutenant General is commanding army, their headquarters is there. So there is a Armed Forces Tribunal also. But over and above, there are in other cities also there are AFTs. So it is a judicial body that deals with the cases of the members of the armed forces, mostly not involving the constitutional interpretations.
Good afternoon, Major sir.
Dr. Rahul Sharma had a very small question, and I think I have given the answer. I'm sure he is satisfied. If he is not, he can write, or he can directly switch on his mic and ask me directly question. Let me read, sir. So many things happened secretly. I have not understood what is the meaning. Out of grudge, anyone can do. I'm questioning the lawmaker. In the second part, I have litigated a case from Kashmir where army killed a fellow NHRC awardee compensation and one job to relative. If it is armed forces tribunal. Okay, fine. What is next question?
Sir, we have this question from Dr. Manoj Joshi here. In international security interests, these special powers are
बोलिए डॉक्टर साहब बोलिए. I cannot hear you now. अभी तक आवाज आ रही थी, अब नहीं आ रही है. बोलिए please.
Good afternoon, Major Saras Tripathi sir. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, sir. I have just one question. It's basically not related to what you have earlier.
Sir, I'll be grateful if you could tell your name, please.
I'm Surendra Singh Bhati from Pacific School of Law.
जी बोलिए.
Yes, sir. Sir, मेरा एक छोटा सा क्वेश्चन ये था. Actually, being a faculty member, many students often ask us about the career options in army with related to law also, and we most of us all have हमने भी कई बार लाइफ में ये सोचा था कि हम आर्मी में जाएं, बट किसी कारण से हम नहीं जा पाए. एक टेरिटोरियल आर्मी का एक ऑप्शन रहता है जो कि जिसके बारे में शायद बहुत कम लोगों को पता है, जो कि विद जॉब अगर कोई रेगुलर पर्सन उसमें आर्मी को सर्व करने के लिए अपने आप को कंट्रीब्यूट कर सकता है. क्या आप अगर उसके बारे में थोड़ा सा बता पाएं ताकि हम भी हमारे स्टूडेंट्स को इन फ्यूचर इस ऑप्शन के लिए एनकरेज कर पाए. थैंक यू सर.
Sure. Firstly, for the law graduates or law postgraduates, law students, there is a army in itself is a world, because almost all kind of professionals are there in the army. You will find there engineers, civil engineer, electronic engineer, computer engineers. Then there are doctors. Then there are veterinary scientists and veterinary doctors. Then there are mechanical and electrical engineers. So there are many, and there is a legal wing also that is known as the advocate, judges and advocate general wing. So most of all the legal cases are dealt by the judge and advocate JAG branch, what they call in brief, JAG branch, by the JAG branch. So when they, not in summary court martial, but when there are general court martial, their role is mostly of an observer, because powers are with the commanders, not with the judge and adjutant general. So they act as advisor and observer. They advise how to convene the general court martial, what are the procedures, whether they have been followed or not, so that whatever is being done, firstly, is done as per the law. Secondly, when it is challenged, it should be sustainable. So whatever the lacunas, they advise the commanders to follow those uh, procedures. So there is a branch of, it's not a very big branch, but yes, there is a scope for legal fraternity to enter there, and they enter as a commissioned officer. So since army has hierarchy, everything is in hierarchical order. So like there also captain, major, lieutenant colonel, colonel, brigadier, this is the hierarchy, similar, same hierarchy. And I think the highest ranking officer who can reach in that hierarchy is either a major general or lieutenant general. So that is one. And more details you can find out. Nowadays it's very easy by going on Google and searching for armed judge and adjutant general branch of the army, or visiting the website of the armed forces. That's one. Number two, your question was about the territorial army. Yes, territorial army is a second line of defense of the army. There is a regular army where officers are regular, but for those who have wished to serve the country and become an officer or join the army at the lower rank, depending on their qualification and capability, so there is an opportunity in territorial army. And territorial army has certain conditions. The broadly I can say that a person should have been gainfully employed. Anybody who wants to, like, I'll talk about only officers. So in case you want to, because you all are law graduates, so you want to join as an officer. So you go to territorial army, there are regular examinations. You should be gainfully employed if you are working in private sector, public sector, government sector. When I was doing my quartermaster's course in Jabalpur, there were officers from the territorial army. And one was an inspector in Central Excise and Custom. There was one income tax inspector. There was one from private sector. There was one fellow who was from some organization in Tamil Nadu government. He was a state government employee. So state government employee or central government employee or PSU employee or private sector employee, if you are gainfully employed, you can go for that. But there is an examination, not as tough as that Union Public Service Commission for CDS and NDA, but there is exam. After that examination, certainly the other procedures are the same. There is a service selection board. Without passing that, nobody can become a commissioned officer. And it is considered to be a very, very typical and tough board. Generally, it takes 3 days to assess your personality. It is not like any other board, interview board like civil services or in corporates and all. You go there, half an hour, you sit in front of the panel, they will talk to you, ask questions, you answer and come back. Either you are fail or you are pass. It's not that. The services selection board is a very elaborate board that tests your personality for 3 days. They will call you in their center. They will provide you accommodation. They will provide you food. They will provide you transport, everything. But one whole day is for the psychological test. And there are 7 to 8 tests that a qualified team of psychologists carried out on you. Generally, rather invariably, we will not know what they are testing, because they know what they have to look for. They don't disclose. But broadly, you can say they test the officer-like qualities. So they test your inner personality. What are your characteristics? What kind of personality you are, whether you are a single personality, split personality, multiple personality. What you say, what you mean has difference or it is the same. The personality is integrated or disintegrated. All these things, because they don't want a person who is of dubious character. So they see through you, try to see through you. At times, maybe that they fail also, but generally not. So second test is the GTO series test, group testing officer, that is carried out on ground. There is a team of officers who are invariably army officers, rather always army officers of the rank of a captain oblique major. And they give you certain tests, almost 2 days on ground. You have to clear the obstacles. They see your leadership qualities, your reactions, your handling of very stressful situations. How do you react? What is your leadership quality, whether you carry your entire team together or you leave them behind, all these tests. And third part is the interview. Then you are interviewed by an officer of the rank of a brigadier or major general, like any other interview. But I tell you one thing very peculiar about SSB is that all these are 3 methods of testing the same thing. It is something like in scientific terminology, if I give you a distance from place A to place B, so I am giving one group of people to measure it in meter, other group in kilometer, and the third group probably in centimeter. And then I will compile and see whether the result is the same or not. So if the result is same, then the person is selected. So these are three different methods of assessing your personality and finding out what kind of a person you are. So this is how it can be done. So the officers from the territorial army also have to go through the SSB, and then once one has qualified the SSB, there is the SMB, Services Medical Board. They see your fitness, because armed forces need very physically and mentally, psychologically fit people. So here only your already the psychological and emotional testing has been done in the SSB. This is only your physical parameters which are seen, like your body is shape or not, your hands, head, heart, brain, lungs, all are functioning, internal and external parts, what they need. And once you pass that test also, then you will be given a commission or you will be inducted in the armed forces. This is briefly the procedure. So for joining Territorial Army, you can go on the website of Territorial Army and all the details will be there. So these are two ways where the law graduates can join the armed forces.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Welcome. I hope I covered your answer properly. Or
Sure,
something
sir.
else.
Sure, sir. Thank you, sir.
Anything else? Okay, no. So we have spent how much time? It is 3 now. In 20 minutes, I'll cover one very important point, which may not relate to the law, but which will give you an insight and understanding about the how the armed forces function, or rather it will be very important for your life to understand what is strategies, because it came to my mind only when I was, there was some word strategy being used. I'll try to get the, not whiteboard, where is that? Share. Computer, optimize screen. I was trying to share a slide, but I don't know whether I'll be able to get it because I'm not very conversant with this system. Share what? Just give me a time. I'll just do it.
Yes, sir, of course. Sir, if my voice is audible to you, there is an option, share screen, that can be used for sharing the screen. We are sorry for the interruption. The chief speaker will be back in few minutes. Sir, if I am audible to you, your screen is visible. Sir, we can see your slide. If I am audible to you, please, you may come online.
Oh. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are of course audible.
Okay,
Properly
fine.
audible.
Now I'll show some slides very quickly, and then we'll understand what the strategy is. It is this because I had not made it specifically for Pacific Institute. This is my name of my institute from where I deliver the lecture. That is Pragya Math. And I'll just move to the next slide. Oh, strategic planning and leadership skills. This is a quote from Dr. Nelson Mandela. I have a core principle. Everything else is just tactics. It has a lot of meaning. This one sentence has a lot of meaning. I'll just describe because it has it has actually given the definition of strategy, but not by taking the name. Please see the sentence. Can everybody see?
Yes, sir. Of course, it is visible.
Okay. Dr. Nelson Mandela had said, I have a core principle. Everything else is just a tactics. So he has defined a strategy. Strategy is a core principle, and rest anything to achieve that core principle is the tactics. Now let us move ahead. What is strategy and leadership? Strategy is an action that leaders and managers make to attain one or more of the organizational goals. I will tell this very simple way. There are three, I'm leaving this slide here. There are three layers of decision making, and I'll reach that just a minute. Yeah, here. Level of decision making. There are three layers of decision making. One is strategy, other is tactical, and third is operational. So what is the meaning of strategy? Strategy is the vision, is the mission and long-term goal. So, and tactics is what? Plan to achieve long-term goals in the direction of vision and mission. And operation is execution of the tactical plans and day-to-day functions. ये मैंने बहुत ब्रीफ में इसलिए बताया ताकि इस बात में क्लैरिटी हो कि स्ट्रैटेजी और टैक्टिक्स क्या होते हैं. तो स्ट्रैटेजी होती है when you are visualizing, you are creating a mission and long-term goals. तो जो स्ट्रैटेजी होती है, जैसे मान लीजिए स्ट्रैटेजी ऑफ नेशनल डिफेंस, तो ये प्रधानमंत्री के लेवल पर और कैबिनेट के लेवल पर डिसाइड होती है, नॉट बिलो दैट. द प्राइम मिनिस्टर एंड कैबिनेट सिक्योरिटी ऑन कैबिनेट कमिटी ऑन सिक्योरिटी is are the people who decide the strategies of the nation as far as national security is concerned. This may include the chief of the services, also national security advisor. Basically here the vision, mission and long-term goals are defined. Now comes tactical. Anything below the rank of the chief of the army staff is tactical. So whatever happens from army commander to down below in the armed forces, at least up to the rank of colonel, that is the tactics. What is the difference? In a strategy, you visualize, you analyze, you understand, you keep in mind every possible aspect when you are deciding the policy. Like let us take an example of the COVID-19. The strategy was decided by the government of India. From where we will source the vaccines, how it will be disseminated, how we plan to use the resources available, what will be the duties of which organization of the state where even Air Force was inducted. So this was the strategy of government of India. When they decide, where they plan, they visualize, create missions, long-term goals. Long-term goal was to vaccinate every person. Then comes the tactics that they gave to the officers, that is the bureaucracy. Bureaucracy is told this is the goal we want to achieve and this is the methodology we have decided. Now you plan, you find out the resources and tell us what are the gaps in the resources, whatever the gaps that we will fulfill and give you. So bureaucracy, what it does, that it tells this is available, this more we need, government provides, and then they plan the nut bolts. How the vaccine will reach, how it will be kept, who will be in charge, and how it will be administered, how the campaign will be run, all these things. Then operational level is when the doctors and the paramedic staff actually administer the vaccine. Similarly, in the army, the national strategy is decided by the cabinet committee on security, the prime minister, the defense, the army service chiefs and all, national security advisor. Then it is the doctrine is given to the armed forces down below. And they are the one, like during war, they are the one who implement. Government tells its vision, like during 72 war, what happened? The clear vision and mission was that we want to liberate Bangladesh. This was the mandate. Now it came to army, and army was told that whatever resources you have, in case there is any shortfall, you tell us, we will give. But mission is very clear: just liberate Bangladesh from the clutches of Pakistan. So it was done. So that was not the mm, headache of the prime minister or the cabinet. How it will be done? How is left to the commanders? What is the what is decided at strategic level. Operational level is when it is operationalized, when it is implemented. So these are the three layers of the uh, planning. Because that word had come, I thought this is actually not meant for this kind of lecture. It is a very different lecture where I give lecture on strategic planning and leadership. But still, I thought since it is there, I must show you. Now, strategic planning includes, it is done at the highest level of leadership. That includes vision, mission. Vision is, that is what ultimately has to be visualized. Mission is, that is what ultimately is going to be achieved, and the long-term goals. So these are three levels I thought I should explain to you. So I will not go in more details because I'm, as far as the timing is concerned, I'm very disciplined. I was given 1 hour 15 minutes and 15 minutes for the question answer. No question answer is over, but still if there is a question answer, I will end it here. So from my side, the lecture is ended. In case you feel something is missing, you are at liberty to ask me. Yeah, Dr. Subhas, any questions coming from anybody?
Yes, anyone who wishes to ask questions, they are welcome. This is the platform where you can quench your thirst. This is the opportunity that we all are getting. And it's a very rare combination that the keynote speaker is from army, and he has the blend of even, writing skills also. He has 2 books and 50 articles in reputed journals and magazines. So you are totally free to ask questions. आप जितना पूछेंगे ये हम सब के लिए अच्छा रहता है, तो प्लीज आस्क क्वेश्चंस इफ एनी.
And any question that coming to mind, not necessarily relating to this, even if it is relating to the armed forces or the strategic planning or anything, you can ask. It is an interactive session. Secondly, as far as my books are concerned, my book is primarily on Kashmir. This gives a lot of insight about the problem of Kashmir. And this book is being read in Europe and America as well. It was sold in the USA for $46.16. That is approximately 3,500 rupees without my knowledge. And I received a call from a gentleman in Germany who was doing research on the terrorism. And in fact, he informed me that why the price of the book is so high. I said, no, it is not. And later on, it came that somebody has manipulated the things. It was being sold unauthorizedly in the US, so price was very high. So I asked him, what did you get in this book? How come you came into touch? He said, no, sir, you may have written with very unassuming attitude, but this book is the primary source for researchers, those who are doing research on insurgency, terrorism, fundamentalist Islam, and these kind of things. So anything happening in the world that has similar characteristic as Kashmir, anybody doing research should read this book. So that I leave to you all, whether you want to read or you don't want to. The book is available in Hindi and English both. In Hindi, in English, it is Holy Sinner Search of Kashmir. I had shared the cover design and all the details to Dr. Subhash and requested to inform you all. And in Hindi, it is available in the by the another title, that is Kashmir mein Atankwad Aankhon Dekha Sach. These whatever is written there, that has been done by me, seen by me, and all aspects have been covered from humanitarian angle. It's a human right violation. its a deceit, its a role of Pakistan, its a role of politicians, its weaknesses of government of India, its a problem of Kashmiri politicians, or the role of Islamic fundamentalists also, even role of the other forces in the world who are aiding and abetting indirectly in Kashmir affairs. So uh, that is your choice. You want to read, you may read.
And I would like to add on also that for that, he received appreciation and honor for both the works from late Srimati Sushma Swaraj,
Oh.
Minister of External Affairs, and by General Dr. V.K. Singh, the then MOS External Affairs. So it's good that
Yeah,
today we
that
got.
in fact, translation was book on the translation of book in Hindi was done on the behest of Srimati Sushma Swaraj. After reading the book, she said that this book should come in Hindi also, and I must inform you that she instructed her officials to purchase at least 2 copies and send to the different missions all over the world in the library as a reference book, so that in case anybody wants to understand the ground realities of Kashmir, they should. The book was released by General Dr. V.K. Singh, then Minister of External Affairs, Minister of State for External Affairs in the Constitution Club in 2015. And Hindi version was released by Dr. Jitendra Singh, who himself is a member of parliament from Jammu and Kashmir state and Minister of State in the Prime Minister's office. And a lot many reviews were written. That is, some part of that is given in the book also. So you may like, in case you are interested. Kindle version is also available on I think Amazon, and these books are available on Amazon, on Flipkart, as well as on my website also, that address I had given. If you search Pragya Math Publications, you will be getting, or you can directly write to me. I'll arrange sending out the book.
Thank you, sir. Any query, any question from anyone? Please use chat box. Otherwise, we might.
मैं देख लूं, let me see whether there are some questions in the box also
Okay.
or not. I am
Awesome.
questioning that every empower should not.
It's an order.
डॉक्टर अमित का ही वही क्वेश्चन है. फिर उसके बाद है इन नेशनल सिक्योरिटी इंटरेस्ट, डॉक्टर मनोज जोशी का है, इन नेशनल सिक्योरिटी इंटरेस्ट these special powers are pivotal and must be given precedence or fundamental rights in disturbed area of Northeast. That is the opinion of Dr. Joshi. Thank you very much. And there is any check and balances provision in check and balances? Yes, there are checks and balances. In case anybody feels that look, checks and balances, Supreme Court has already imposed. Supreme Court has said in case somebody feels that they have been wronged by the armed forces because of this law, they have a right to lodge an FIR. FIR will be lodged and police will carry out preliminary investigation. At the same time, police will inform the military authorities as it is they are informed. And I must inform you, the law implementation is most sacrosanct in the army. If I have been in the system, if anybody is found guilty, there is no brotherhood. If he is found doing wrong thing or had done wrong thing, he will surely be punished. It is much more faster justice than civil courts and much stricter and harsher than the civil courts can give. So nobody can escape from the clutches of the armed forces. And many officers, many jawans have been sacked, many have been punished, many have been jailed for misusing this power. But since military does not advertise all these things, generally things don't come in the press, so most of the time people are not aware. But punishment is given anybody who has done wrong. The system is very robust within the armed forces itself. Then is I state in Tripura where in some parts of it Armed Forces Special Power Act was enforced and know how the army used the terrorize the citizens there. I shall be grateful if those points. Yes, maybe I already said that there, it is not that there is no misuse of power. There is, of course, you cannot tell the fish not to drink water more than what you have rationed. The point is when the fish is in the ocean, You tell, okay, you will drink 1 liter of water. Who will ensure? When powers are given to anybody, there is very strong chance of misuse. So it will happen. These are practical problems, but they should not be legalized or institutionalized. Institutionalization of wrong thing is wrong, and legalizing wrong thing is wrong. So that is not being done in our country. The law is very clear. If you do wrong, you will be punished. That should be the bottom line. But misuse, I accept misuse is there, but it is everywhere where it is not misused. Even in parliament, you see there is misuse of majority. The laws are being passed without discussion. There are excesses by the civil servants. There are excesses by the police. So why you feel that army should be the only organization that should be very, what you call Puritan? It should not do anything wrong. They are also human beings. They go from the society. They are part of the same society where you and I and the police officer, the corrupt officials come. Yes, of course, the system is stronger, so it is lesser. But it will happen. These are practical problems. You can just cannot filter 100%. Nothing will happen. It will happen, and you have to accept it.
Sir, may I say something here?
Yeah, please.
Sir, I think these issues are debatable. So depending on the positive time, we may conclude the meeting now.
Yes, I agree with you. There is no end to all this discussion. From my side, the lecture is over, and I thank you very much, all of you, for joining me. And in case I have something incorrect factually, that please consider it unintentional, because I don't read from the script. Wherever I go to give lecture, I just speak impromptu, and sometimes I refer the facts so that nothing is left out. Like here about Armed Forces Tribunal, I wanted to tell, but probably I missed out. Somebody reminded, so I spoke. So that is why only I refer on the headlines. Otherwise, I speak. So maybe in the flow of speech, some facts, some dates may be wrong. So you have to, as a man of information, I mean wisdom, you must read that. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir. It was really a very, excellent deliberation. In fact, we should say, and we all are lucky enough, fortunate enough that we got the opportunity to listen to you. It was really, you have meticulously presented all the figures and facts. Now I'm handing over the dice to Dr. Abrar for final concluding remark.
Sir, I can say that knowing your achievements and listening to you, your speech was an honor for everyone present in this meeting. So on behalf of Pacific School of Law and its entire fraternity, I express my sincere gratitude to you, sir, for sparing your precious time and giving us a new vision towards military laws. And many questions were asked, I suppose, and answered properly, but still some issues are debatable. So we look forward to some other occasion where we can address to those questions. So with this humble note, I put a humble submission that we end this session depending on the paucity of time, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Abrar. I'm very thankful to you, to all of you for calling me. And I have already said that I consider no more knowledgeable than you. Yes. But yes, certainly certain things probably in this field I knew I shared. If you call me in future, I will surely come with more preparation. I never knew that you do like the PowerPoint presentation, because most of my lectures are through PPT. If I had known, the lecture would have been far better. In future, we look forward to give lecture added by the PPT. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Thank you for coming, sir. It was an honor meeting you, sir.
It was my pleasure and my honor. Thank you, sir. All of you. Thank you very much. Grateful to you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, we all can